going on?
Not much, man.
Is Whiskey with an Agent, episode number 28? 28, I think? Or 27? I don't know.
I think today's 27th, not 28th.
Why don't we just do, hey, this is Whiskey with an Agent, episode 27. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Whiskey with an Agent, episode 28. And we'll just, I don't know, I'll probably just leave both in there. And then whatever you see on the title is what episode it's going to be. So this is Whiskey with an Agent. Today we're going to be talking about homesteading and taxes. They kind of go hand in hand. Homestead helps your property taxes, and then taxes.
Knowing your taxes help your taxes.
Taxes is taxes. And
we're about to go into that, so we thought it was actually very important to discuss taxes, especially for a lot of our clients and a lot of people out there who bought a home in the past year, 2 years. We're all trying to save as much money as possible, so this is actually be very beneficial to go over taxes. And we're gonna break it down, but try not to get too far into the weeds.
Yeah, because with taxes, it holy crap, man! I've done my taxes. I've done my own taxes up until about 3 years ago when I started, I got into real estate. But up until then, I have been doing my own taxes, TurboTax. Some people knock on it, but it's amazing. And there's a lot of little nuances that go into taxes. So we're going to touch on it a little bit. But like Chris said, we're not going to get too deep in the weeds. I'm going to have my accountant as a guest on one of our next shows or next month, either on the live show or pre-recorded show. I'm not sure yet, but and then he's going to get into a little bit more detail than what we will on this one. Cool. Because it does, man. It gets confusing, and then
convoluted.
Every year, man, the IRS changes. They just I think they go through their tax book and they're like with a dart and they're like, hey, change that one. Boom, change that one. Boom, change that. I swear it seems so random sometimes.
It's the policies that's written in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. Just the policies written in Congress, and that's why it's like throwing a dartboard. I swear, it's just like these people just sit in a room and they throw all the policies they want on a dartboard, and then they just do.
Yep.
Well, that's the policy we're putting in this 4,000-page docket.
Oh my goodness! But well, let's start getting into it, man. What kind of whiskey you got there?
So I got this from a really good friend of mine. A friend of mine came into town for the Christmas break, and his name is Jason Potts. He is he's a warrior. He's essentially he's in the military and everything, so he was only home for a short period of time. Okay. But he got me this single malt Scotch whiskey by Belvini, and it is a 14-year Caribbean cask, and it actually looks pretty cool. I love the label.
Nice.
Love the label.
Caribbean cask. So is it? Yeah. Is it? Where is it made? You said.
I mean, it says here.
Like, does it have something to do with the Caribbean, or is they just called it Caribbean cask?
Further maturation in a Caribbean rum cask enhances the whiskey's vanilla notes.
So they made the whiskey and then they fermented or they age it in a rum, like a Caribbean rum cask.
Extra matured in rum cask.
That's like the opposite of that Wicked Dolphin that I talked about in the last show, where it's a rum, but then they age it in a whiskey barrel.
Yeah.
So it's like I wonder if they flip flop. It's like they made the rum, and then this guy said, "Hey, I'll take your rum barrel." Well, hey, I'll take your whiskey barrel.
I think so. Like, this single malt spent many years maturing in traditional whiskey oak casks before being transferred to casks that are previously held Caribbean rum for a final period of maturation.
Interesting.
Maturation.
Yeah. whatever that word is.
Yep. So the nose, rich, sweet, and creamy toffee with fresh fruit notes. The taste, rounded with vanilla, sweet oaks, and fruitiness. And finish, warm, soft, and lingering. Ooh, I like
Ooh,
that. Lingering.
interesting.
Dope.
That'll be a good one to
You,
try.
Jason. Salute to our heroes. I will be drinking this
Heck
to
yeah.
you, brother, and to all my other friends who serve.
Yes, sir. Um,
What about you?
so this one I also got from a good friend of mine, and it is so
Jefferson's Ocean.
he wanted
Yes.
so bad for me to try this one. And so Jefferson's Oceans, if you've never heard of this, well, just check out the label. It's aged at sea. So they actually take the cask and then they I don't know how, if they put it on. I want there to be some sort of like really cool story of it's some old wooden pirate ship that they put it on. I don't know if that's
And it just
true.
creaks back and forth.
Right, and it's like I just imagine like those old movies, where it's like, and that
Yeah.
whiskey is just sloshing back and forth. But um, so either way, they put it on ships. They put the cask on ships, and then those ships they literally like go all around the world, and it could be in only hot temperatures, it could be only cold temperatures, or it could go hot and cold. So then that sort of somehow maybe changes the
Mm.
flavor of the whiskey. I don't
Well,
know.
each bottle, like or cask or like they have their own little story of where it was.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
this one has like a little
Yep.
tag
There
on
it
it, and
is.
it's voyage, what does that say? Voyage
24.
24 ship's log. And there's a little story inside, and I think this particular bottle was in mostly like hot weather and stuff, and I'm not going to read through that here, but it is pretty cool how they have like little things, and it didn't say anything about an old wooden pirate ship that it was spent on, that it sat on for I don't know what 4, 5, 6 years, however long this was on there, I don't know,
Yeah. I
but
can't imagine the amount of money
oh,
it
I know.
costs to do
I
that.
know. I mean, you know what? I wonder if they work out some sort of deal. It's like, hey, we'll give you crew
Yeah.
members, some free whiskey if you just let us put a bunch of
Sounds
whiskey on there.
horribly dangerous. It sounds dangerous as hell.
Well, I mean, as long as you're not drinking and shipping, driving the
Sailing.
ship, sailing the ship, piloting the ship. I
Yeah,
think they
sailing.
pilot the ship.
Sailing.
I don't know. I think they
Do
call them
they
pilots too. Oh, you're gonna look it
they're
up, aren't you?
captains, yeah.
Well, they are captains, but I do think they pilot the ship. I mean, you do sail a ship, but the captain goes up and he pilots the ship. Am I am I is that right? No? Maybe? No? I don't know.
Let's see.
You gonna find it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
Do you drive sip do you drive a ship or pilot a ship?
you pilot a ship.
So, let's see here. So someone wrote this question. A little complicated technically.
No, it's not look, you pilot a ship. You pilot a plane, you pilot a ship because it has to do with um what's
This
the
is
word?
just a question. Someone wrote this is like the Quora form.
Oh, I
So-
can I can never find anything good on there.
uh, no one knows the correct answer.
Yeah, that's fine.
The
Whatever.
ship pilot navigates ships based on knowledge of the sea and variation parts. So it's a ship pilot.
Yeah. Yeah, the common term is piloting.
Yeah, you're right. Pilot boats. Yeah.
There we go. Woohoo! I was right.
This guy.
That felt good. All right. Piloting a ship. I'm glad we spent so much time looking up what the right term for piloting a ship.
Details, sir.
I
Details.
know.
If we're gonna be out in the world, we gotta be accurate with our details.
That's right.
Such as when we go over Homestead, which is vitally important if you live in a homestead state. In our case, we live in Florida. So if you own a home where your primary residence is here, you can file for Homestead. So, Jared, what exactly is Homestead?
So homesteading, It's a so it's a Florida. It's throughout Central Florida, or not Central Florida. It's throughout the state of Florida. It's a Florida program to where you can get off of your assessed value, off your, and it helps with your taxes. But basically, you get a $25,000 discount off of your
automatically.
assessed, yeah, automatically, and then there's an additional $25,000 depending on what your assessed value is. And just to make it easy, because I I've tried to figure out how the calculations work and so on, but it gets a little confusing. But if your assessed value is $75,000 or greater, you get the full additional $25,000. So you'd get a total of 50 grand
Mhm.
off of your assessed
Yeah.
value.
So
So
pretty much you have to go to the county records and it'll tell you what your assessed value is. And
mhm,
essentially is more often than not, everyone's home is worth more than what the assessed value is. So like my home is worth $350,000 and the assessed value may say like 295, whatever it is. And so what Jared is saying is there if that assessed value is greater than 75,000, you will get the full 50,000 because 25 is automatically applied to your home, and then there's the additional that you can apply for.
mhm.
So that's how you get the
When it's,
total
yeah,
as total assessed value,
and
and that's just go ahead.
it's an automatic, like if you apply for one, you're applying for both the initial 25 and the additional. It's just a matter of what your assessed value is.
Hmm. Yep, and you just go to the county record, and it'll tell you. And it'll always tell you you just got to go to the county records and under the property appraiser. And there's even other types of exemptions too. There's actually a lot, and a lot of it's there are the what the Florida tax revenue will say like, hey, this is qualifications, and then there's even macro qualifications based on your county. So like counties, Seminole County or Orange County or Brevard County, each one have their own different or similar deductions. And so some of these deductions, for example, um, is like the Fallen Heroes Family Relief Act. So for surviving spouses of first responders, property tax benefits for active duty military and veterans, not county, but property tax benefits for persons over 65. And then there's the county based ones that I've noticed like widow or widower exemptions, limited income senior programs, disability programs. So, like, if you think you fall into some of these categories, you should definitely look into seeing what additional tax exemptions you can get. And
Yeah, so
this doesn't impact your income tax; it impacts your property taxes.
correct. But those extra like outside of that 50 grand, those are just like local, like specific to your local area, right? It's not
Um,
like those aren't like statewide. I mean, they might be
some are
in,
statewide.
some are statewide. I couldn't
Mhm.
remember.
Yeah,
Um,
so the statewide ones are the Fallen Heroes Family Tax Act relief. So that's pretty much the surviving spouses of first
oh, okay.
responders.
Okay.
Another one that's state level is active duty military veterans. Another state level is persons over 65. And then they go into county based ones like your widow, your limited income, your disability, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that's, if it applies. So whenever you apply for it, I remember seeing on Volusia County's application. So first thing, I mean, you can apply for it. It's super easy now. I mean, I remember when I applied the first time, when bought my first house in 2014. I don't think I could apply online.
No. I
You
mean,
had to
you
print
could.
out.
I mean, you could.
I don't
Oh, wait,
remember,
Winnie.
like back in
Sorry.
2014.
No, you're right.
No,
So,
I don't think
um,
I could apply online. I had to print
mm,
out an application,
you had to go
fill
in
it out,
person.
and then take it in there in person and submit
Yeah.
it. Whereas
So,
now it's super easy to do.
yeah.
In most counties, I think most counties have it online. No,
No,
does
no, no, no.
Seminole have it? Orange?
Seminole does, Orange County does, but the other counties that are do not have a high population,
Okay,
no, they're still just mountains behind schedule. And
yeah,
then if you have like older persons counties like Lake County, they're not moving quick.
right.
So they're still very much paper oriented. So
Okay.
filing electronically is still very new for a lot of counties.
But it's man, it makes it so easy. Like
Yeah, it is.
quick story, one of my well, actually the friend that gave me this whiskey, and he's been in his house since 2018 he bought it, and
Yeah.
he had yet to file his
Oh
homestead
no,
exemption.
dude, his taxes. Oh man, his
Okay, so here's the
oh.
thing, like here's the thing. His assessed value is like I think it was like $95,000 or something.
Hmm.
So take this one for example. So $95,000, and I told him, I'm like, dude, I told him like 2 years ago. I was like, man, when he first said something, I was like, hey, you need to go get that done. You should go do it. It's pretty easy. And then
Yeah.
last year, I'm like, hey, did you do it? No, 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 I didn't do it. So finally this year, and like I had this year, I'm coming off of 2 weeks off of flying, so I've been home for quite some time. I know like that sounds weird
Nice.
to
No.
for people to say, is like, oh, I've been home. It's like, well, yeah, most people are home. They go to work and then they come home.
Yeah.
I'm gone. I have a trip coming up on Thursday. I'm gone for 6 days. But I told him, I was like, look, man, let's like get together. We'll go get some coffee. I'm gonna bring I did it on my iPad. I was like, bring bring your car registration, bring your driver's license, and I think voter registration. I don't it's
Well, you also need proof that of the ownership of the home. So a copy
right.
of your deed. So you need a copy of the deed.
We didn't need that. We didn't need that. They didn't ask for it.
That's
Didn't
usually a standard requirement.
No, I think they can go in because it's online, they can reference the name that's on the property, and because we filled it out online. So they can see that okay, you do have to take a picture of your driver's license
Hmm.
and submit it with your application. Your driver's license does have to show the property address. And I think what they do is, or the system does, is it takes that and it matches it to the county record to make sure that it matches to, it's like, hey, you own the house. But
Hmm.
so I told him, I was like, all right, we're doing this. It literally, we drank, I don't drink coffee, but I had a hot chocolate or whatever. And we drank that and we did this. It took us like 10 minutes to fill it
Yeah,
out
it's a very
online.
simple process,
Yeah.
and to not do it is only hurting yourself. One of
Right.
my friends who bought it on the coast. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
No,
was gonna go
what?
on a little story
Oh,
anecdote.
well, so to wrap that story up is, so his assessed value was like $95,000. He's
Mm,
gonna get the full $50,000 exemption.
mm, nice.
Yeah.
And now
So
his payment goes down a little bit.
his assessed value, and his new assessed value is gonna be $50,000 less, which is what, like $45,000.
Yeah,
And so I'm like, dude, you literally just cut your taxes pretty much in half,
yeah,
like your property tax. And he's like, so I'm gonna be saving that like every. I'm like, yes. He's
yeah,
like, I
bro.
I could have been saving that the past couple of years. I'm like, yes. I mean, that's like, so it worked out. It was like he's gonna be saving like $60 a month or something like that.
Yeah,
When they redo his taxes and figure out. Now it'll take time for that to kick in, but
gonna be worth it.
when it comes down to it, he has to pay his property taxes later this year. The bank, in his escrow, they're going to be like, hey, you've got like 3 grand in here for taxes. Your taxes are only $1,500.
Yeah.
Here's your rebate for the 1,500. And then we're going to lower your payment to make sure that you have $1,500 in there now instead of
Hmm.
3,000. So yeah, but yeah, I'm so glad he did it. I'm so glad he did it because he was just super excited that he's going to be saving, that much a month
Yeah.
and his payments.
Yeah, and it's really important to do too because we got hit really hard with it the first
Mhm.
year.
Mhm.
So when you do file for taxes, so say if you bought a home today, all
Yep.
right, when you file taxes, that homestead exemption will not unfortunately take place until the following year. So 2024 is when it'll be applied. Um, actually, wait, no,
No,
you have a deadline. It's usually March
yep,
1st or it's March 30th, depending on
March
your
1st.
county.
Yeah, depend. Oh, is it
It
changed
depends on
for
the
the
county.
county?
It depends on the county because
I thought that was
Seminole County is March 1st, Orange is 30th.
really. I thought the March for. I thought that was a state like a state deadline.
No,
Ah, okay.
I learned that the hard way. So the first year
Well,
we bought this house, we
yeah.
bought it in February, and I forgot. We were already in March when I went to go try to apply for it, and I
Oops.
found out that it was March 1st, and
Oops.
so our property got reassessed, and it
Oh.
got assessed hard,
Ooh.
and so it's just like,
Oh.
so our payment increased like, so it was like almost like $100 and some dollars,
Dang.
which sucks. And we had to pay the difference in escrow too. So if you don't do
Yes.
that, so
Yep.
now the escrow changes because now it's got to now
Accumulate.
it got to accumulate.
Yep.
It's got to reimburse the overage that it paid for,
Correct.
and then on top of that, it now has to assess at the new. It has to pull money
Correct.
from you at the
Right.
new assessed value.
Yes.
And I had one friend who unfortunately got hit with like a $4,000 tax bill.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the home hadn't sold in years. Like
Oh, okay.
years. The only
Right.
reason why it hits like that is like if someone's lives in a home for like 30, 40 years
Mm-hmm.
and it's now being sold for say like $500,000
Right.
and it
Right.
got reassessed to that today's
Yeah.
standards, it was like, oh,
Dang.
that bill's hard.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
You,
looked at mine and it's $205,000 assessed value, and
is it
the tax value is $155,000. So $50,000 exemption. I'm
okay?
looking at the
Yeah.
county records right now.
Yeah. 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 And as far as the states go, man, I mean, I tell you what, if you just stick to the March 1st deadline, you'll never
You'll
miss.
never miss.
You'll never miss the March 30th.
Yeah. And that'll be
So
applied for that year. After that will be the following year.
yes. So then here's the other caveat: you have to be in the home. So when it actually gets implied, so you have to be in the home January 1st. So you have to show that you were in the home by January 1st. And that may be a county thing. I know for Volusia County, it says specifically for the calendar year of 2023, for it to apply to this year, you have to have been in the home since January 1st. So that means you'd have to close on or before January 1st to prove that you own the home. And
Mhm.
then you have to get the application, the homestead application put in, submitted by March 1st. If you meet those two requirements, it would apply for this year. If
Mhm.
you don't meet the January 1st requirement and you still get your application in, it's not going to apply until the following year. So they're not going
Mhm.
to give you a tax break if you haven't been in the home for the entire year from January 1 to December 31.
Gotcha. That
So,
makes sense. That's
so yeah,
Volusia County. I
yeah,
think it's a little different from Orange, Seminole, and several others.
yeah, and it may be. I know Volusia County is that way. Um, I haven't looked at the other ones, but I mean, if you don't know what it is, the best thing to do, like you can literally go on and just type in Homestead and then your county
A
name,
county. That's it.
and it will the first website that pops up will be
Your home exemption,
exactly,
and
and
it'll tell
then
you everything you need to know, the list of requirements and
mhm,
how to do it. If your
yep,
county is up to date, then you should be able to file online very easily. If it's not up to date, then you're gonna have to push paper and
yeah,
mail it in,
yeah,
with copies, or just go in person and do it. It
yeah.
takes
It's
like 10 minutes, like Jared was talking about. It really is a simple process.
if you're doing it online, yeah, it's super quick, and then here's the other thing, and I don't know if this is a Volusia County thing or not, but so you need your driver's license, you
Mhm.
need your a vehicle registration. If you don't have that, there are some other options to
Passport.
some things that you can submit, but those were like a couple of things on the website. um, and then your voter registration if you're registered to vote. But here's the thing: if you're married and your wife lives with you, but she's not on the deed, you still have to add her to the application. I don't know why. It doesn't explain why, but at least for Volusia County, it specifically says if you're married, even though your wife's name is not on the deed, you still have to add her to the application. I don't know
I think
what
that's
the
just a marriage thing. Just like how if I have to take a mortgage, if I'm taking a mortgage out in my name, my
Mhm.
wife Bethany has to sign the mortgage as an acknowledgement. So I think that's why.
Really?
Yeah,
That's strange.
you
So
didn't know
even
that?
if no, even so if
If
you're doing
married
a yeah, if you're
and
doing your own
me under
loan,
Chris Noon,
right.
Bethany still has to sign that mortgage as an acknowledgement.
Huh. Didn't
Yep.
know that.
Yep. That's why same thing when it's selling a house. When you're selling your house, that's in your name. But if the wife is, or so if you're married and you're selling your house, the wife still has to sign as well to release over the deed because it's weird. And if you're not on good terms, it's not good.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah,
Even
that
if the
ties
house
in.
is in your name and everything like that, the wife still has to sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Interesting.
once you're divorced, they don't have to touch it.
Hmm.
But it's but yeah, and when it comes to mortgages, the wife has to acknowledge, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing applies for the homestead, which kind of makes sense too. Is an acknowledgement,
Yeah.
no nefarious shit.
Right. Interesting. I don't know.
I think it also prevents married couple with two different properties saying that they live in two separate households, but they're married and they both claim homestead, which is double dipping in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe
Because the county,
that's
because the county of the state's not coming to check on you. Are you guys sleeping in the same bed? It's like
right. But
every single night. Like no.
what if you're separated but still married? Could the other person
See, now you're
still
getting into legal shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. That's that'd be yeah. So I mean if you're married, separated, you both have like your own primary residence now.
I think if you have separated documents, like legally separated and legally divorced are two different things. So, but if you
Correct.
have legally separated,
Are
I think you could take
are
advantage
there
of that
documents
homestead.
to say like I'm not going to divorce you, but we're separated? And look,
Yes.
here we signed it. There's
Yes.
documents
Yep.
that you
Yeah.
can. Huh, you've looked into them, have you? Okay.
I've notarized a couple.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, is it like just something that they wrote up between themselves and said, "Hey,
No,
Chris,
you want
or
lawyers. You want
it
lawyers to
was
do it.
interesting. Oh, I don't know,
You
man.
want lawyer because like if you do it yourself and then like say 2 years down the road something pops up
Yeah.
and one person doesn't like it that you're doing this, they can take legal action. And it's like, well, we have a separated agreement. Well, it's not a
Why wouldn't they just get divorced?
some people don't believe in divorce.
So they just believe in unhappiness.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
some people want to take advantage of the fact that they're married. Like there's a lot of benefits to being
True.
married.
True.
But a lot of people would argue that there's almost no benefits to being married. But I don't know, it's to each their own. And some people do not like the idea of getting divorced.
We should be
And
marriage counselors.
some people we no God no. I could not stand I would
Dude,
not be able to
right
stand it.
here.
Listen to people's bitchiness.
Drink some whiskey and just say, "I
Duke it out.
agree, I understand, and I love you." And then there you go.
Mm,
That's how that works,
mm,
isn't it? No?
mm,
No.
mm, mm, mm,
I don't
mm,
know.
mm,
No.
mm,
No.
no. I wouldn't be
Alright.
able to handle it. I would call these bitchy ass people out and be like, "You're bitchy for no reason."
Oh, I think
So
we're getting off topic a little bit.
I think we definitely veered off topic. So I think
Ugh.
we're good for homestead people.
Yes.
It now is the time to start doing it. If you bought a
Yep.
home in 2018, you have to freaking do it. Or
2022,
2022,
man.
2018.
Dude, 2018, man.
Well,
You're
we're
like
about to go into taxes, and there was a big thing about 2018, 2017 about being able to do a tax deduction. So that's why that's in there. It's called the Prior to the Tax Cut Jobs Act of 2017.
yes, 2017. Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So
So yeah, Homestead, March 1st. March 1st, March 1st. When's the
March
date?
1st.
March 1st. It's not March 30th. Even if it
March
is March
1st.
even if it is March 30, it's still March 1st. Get it done. don't
You
just do it.
fools.
I mean, you're gonna save money. I gave you an example earlier of how like he literally cut his taxes in half. Now, I mean that was because his assessed value and blah blah blah. But
Mm, just do it. All right,
just do it.
let's
Like
segue.
taxes,
Let's tax
taxes.
us.
Um, yeah, taxes. Do your tax. No, I'm just kidding. You have to.
It is tax season. It is tax season, so this is going to
it,
be beneficial for a lot of people who bought their home within the past like 2 to 3
yeah.
years. All right.
Sorry, I was
So
right. Something down.
no worries. When considering any of the deductions that we're going to mention, the only way to take advantage of them is that they must be greater than the standard deduction. What the hell does that mean, Jared?
So filing your tax. So I've been doing my own taxes for quite some time, up until about 2 or 3 years ago, when I got into real estate. And then it just became, because I have little side businesses here and there, and I was able to manage. But then got into real estate, and I actually started making some money, in real estate and the photography, and those were two separate businesses. And started making some money in the businesses. And I was like, man, I need somebody to do my taxes. But I've been doing my taxes up until then, since I was old enough to where I had to file taxes. So the standard deduction, every year the IRS is going to come out with a number, and it's the standard deduction. It used to be a lot lower. It was like around $4,500, $6,000, something like that. And then Trump went into
Mm.
office, and then he raised it up to um, basically, like, he did a huge increase when he first got into office. And I think I file head of household, so for me it was like it jumped up from like, now it basically doubled. I think it was what it was. I can't remember exactly, but it went really high. So the standard deduction is, the government assumes that everybody is going to have some sort of expenses, and they sort of estimate what those expenses for the standard person in that particular year. So, for example, for this year, the standard deduction, if you're a single person or filing single, is $12,950. They figure most Americans aren't going to be able to itemize and have enough deductions to get above that 12,950. Itemize just means you're going to take each one of your deductions that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. You're going to take each one of those, you're going to add them up, and it's either going to be lower or higher than your standard deduction.
Mm.
Does that make sense, or did
Yeah,
I
it does.
clear as
I
mud?
was yeah, clear as mud.
Okay.
And I was just kind of looking to see like um what Trump's standard deduction amounts were. In
Oh, okay.
2018 are nearly doubled from what they were in 2017.
Yeah.
24,000 for joint filers and
Yep.
surviving spouses,
Yep.
18,000 for head of households, and
Yes.
12,000 for singles and married
Yep.
persons filing separately.
Yep. And
Ooh.
I remember, because I used to itemize everything. So before, he raised it up to the 18. So for head of household, it went up to
18.
$18,000. So I used to itemize everything. So I would, all my mortgage insurance, or because I had PMI, primary mortgage
Uh,
insurance, your
Interest, yeah.
interest, and all the other things that you could deduct on your taxes. I put those in there because my itemized deductions was higher than the standard deduction. And
Mhm.
then he came in and said, "Hey, the new standard deduction is now $18,000." So
Yeah.
it
So
benefited
even if
me.
yeah, because if your itemized deductions would say 16,000, you just got your ceiling just went up
Right,
$2,000,
right,
and you're like, absolutely, thank you.
right. So
So it really helps out a lot of people.
it did help out. It did help out a little bit. But there are some caveats. There are some caps now to how much interest you can take or you can write off, and how, there's some caps on certain things. I'm not going to get into specifics, because that's more for, a tax guy. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't want to get into the thick of it.
yeah,
Into the thick of it.
and most of this, if you have questions, I mean, anybody
Call a tax
listening
guy.
should be talking to, a tax advisor. Yeah, your accountant, or when you go down to H&R Block or whatever, let them deal
Yeah.
with it, because It does. It can get confusing.
Yeah.
Um, but so I mentioned a couple of things that you can write off, but I think do you write off what do you write off on yours?
So when it comes to um when it comes to me writing off on for the biggest things that I can write off on is essentially a pro the interest on the mortgage, and that's what majority of people can write off.
Mhm.
Is the actual interest rate that you paid. So from January 1st to December 1st, all those
Mhm.
payments, you can write off all those interests. You can even write off points. So say you bought a home last year, and if you wanted to buy down your rate and you paid, say, like 1 point or 2 points, and it cost you, say, like $4,000 because buying down your interest rate got really expensive for a little while.
It
But if
did.
you paid that, you can actually write that off little by little. Those points, you can write them off little by little, or
Yep.
you can write them off all at once, including your interest that you've paid throughout the course of that year. So you could end up saving several thousands of dollars just because of that. Because the first couple years of your loan, or first several years of your loan, your payment is broken down into predominantly interest and very little principal. So you can write off of quite a bit of money, especially these days when higher interest rates is going to be more important for buyers to or homeowners to really take advantage of deductions of the mortgage interest. Um, Another thing that can be deducted that I cannot take advantage of, but a lot of people could, is
Mhm.
actually a home equity loan. So if you took out a loan from the
Okay.
equity,
Yep.
a lot of times they are interest heavy first.
Yeah.
Again,
Yep.
you can write all that off if you're using that loan towards the actual property of that loan.
Home
So
improvements,
if
right?
the home improvements, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're taking that loan to, say, buy an investment property like Bethany and I did,
Right.
then we cannot deduct that equity line because we didn't use it for the primary home. We used it
Right.
for the investment property. However, you can write off interest rate and not interest rate, but you can write off mortgage interest on secondary homes. And
Oh,
there are
can you?
you can.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't know you could, but you can.
Yeah, I thought that was just
And
a primary home kinda thing.
there are certain requirements. And give me a
Ah.
second, and I will tell you what they are.
Um, or while you're looking that up, so the property taxes, that was one of the caps that they put in there. So you got the higher deduction or the higher standard deduction, but it
Mhm,
was the property tax. So you can deduct your property taxes because why would you be getting taxed on the same thing twice?
mhm,
But what they did is they put a cap on those taxes, and that's where a lot of people with higher end homes that had, 15,000, $20,000 worth of taxes, especially up in
mhm.
like the Northeast, like Jersey and New York, and then out in California where the property taxes are really high. They
Yeah.
put a cap on those taxes to where you can only deduct, it's like 10,000 if you're married or filing jointly, and then 5,000 if you're filing single.
And
So
that's California.
well, no, this is for your federal taxes. So
Oh,
when
okay.
you're
I
when
don't
you're
know. For
going
some
through,
reason, I thought I heard you say California. I'm like, well, that makes sense.
I did because I was saying this really affects people that are in California or New York where their property
Oh,
taxes are really high.
really high.
I mean, literally some of these people are paying 15 to $20,000 just in property tax. They used to be able to deduct that entire amount. Now they're capped at either 10,000 or 5,000 depending on if they're filing jointly or single. So that was where that catch 22, they
Mm,
raised that standard deduction, but they capped what you could deduct on your property tax, and
yeah.
it kind of jogged my memory here. And so that a lot of people were upset about that. They're like, I don't want the higher, standard deduction. I want to be able to write off my
Well,
$20,000 in property tax. So
yeah.
now,
Well, California is just a bunch of thieves, anyways. Like,
well,
It's
Man.
you can't argue this. You can't. No, that's why they're leaving by the droves.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's the same thing in New York and in Jersey. It's just crazy, crazy high up there.
yeah, it's stupid. So for second home mortgages, so if you have, oh my god, I just lost it. There it is. Requirements for second homes. Oops, sorry. Um, you do not have to live in the home during the year. The house has to be collateral for the loan, which almost every single loan is has a collateral for the house. So,
Okay.
and then you if you rent out the second home, you have to be there for longer than of at least 14 days and no or more than 10% of the number of days you've rented it out. So you have to be residing in the property for a minimum of 14 days
Okay.
or 10% of the number of days you've rented it out. So if you're renting out your property, even if like short term, all I have to do is live in there for like 14 nights out of the year.
Okay. So
And that's easy.
or 10%, whichever is
Or
greater. I wonder.
10%.
I
It
wonder if
didn't
it's
really specify. It didn't really
whichever is
specify.
greater. So I mean, if you rented it out for 200 nights, you would have to spend 20
At least 20
nights
nights.
there.
Yeah.
But I wonder
So
if
one
it's
month.
and that would be if it's whichever is greater. If it's not, if it's whichever is lower, then it's like
Mhm.
14 nights.
Yeah. And
Um,
it actually didn't specify which was greater or not, but that's a good
yeah,
question to know.
yeah,
Because like if your investment property is close, and you do say like short-term rental, you can
hmm
just book out all the number of nights you're gonna stay there or
yeah,
consecutive.
yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah. I didn't realize. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't have a second home,
Oh,
so it's
I
not something
hadn't.
that you know. You guys got the second home now, so are
Mhm.
you gonna try
Yep.
to? Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Are
we're
you gonna?
gonna. Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna
yeah, we'll
rent
be
it
staying
out, but
there.
then you're gonna be. Are you gonna try to write off? Well, you don't have mortgage insurance on it, so that doesn't apply.
No, we don't.
No.
No, but we can write off the interest rate because we will be residing there for a number of days that qualifies.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
think
okay.
about it. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. Like we got that home when interest rates were really high for second properties. So our
Right.
interest rate on that home is like over 7%. The
Yikes.
loan amount is $211,000.
Okay.
The mortgage payment on that home is worth more than my property right here. That's valued at 350.
Yikes. Yeah.
So
That's
that's
nuts.
the power of interest rate, man. Because
Yeah.
the interest rate on this home is 2.99
Yep.
versus 7.
Yep.
So
That's nuts. That's
our
nuts.
investment property costs more than this one.
So here's
So
one
we're
thing that
absolutely going to be living there to write off that interest.
true. But here's one thing that you won't be able to write off for that particular house, but for your primary, I don't know if you talked about this one, but the capital gains. So
Yeah. Oh,
so yeah, so for your second home, for your rental home, whenever
mhm,
you sell it, so I mean,
mhm.
I don't know what you bought it for. Let's say you bought it for 250
Yeah.
and then you keep it for 3 4 5 years and then you sold it for 350, so you net $100,000 profit. You're gonna have to pay capital gains tax on that, my friend.
Mm,
Yeah.
are you sure?
Yep.
Because I didn't meet the quote.
What do
I
you
didn't meet
mean?
the limit. So if you're a married couple and you sell a property, the capital gains is $500,000. Is that only on a primary?
Yeah. What do you is there a limit on there?
Yeah,
You
for
can keep
singles, you have
no,
to. It has to be
but
two hundred fifty
yeah,
thousand.
but it has to be your primary residence.
Son of a bitch.
It has to be your primary residence. And then
Okay,
there's two you have to have lived in the house for 2 years
2 of the
consecutive
5 consecutive
in
years.
the past 5 years. So don't get confused. You don't have to have lived in the house for 5 years. Just in the past 5 years, you have to have lived in the house for 2 consecutive years. So for example, the first house that I bought, we owned the house for like 4 right at 4.5 years. We weren't there the
Mhm,
full 4 or 5 years, but we did live in the past 5 years. We
mhm.
lived in the house for 2 years consecutively.
I wonder.
So, and yes, there are caps for, or some things for that go into how much you can keep and blah blah blah. If it's over $500,000 or whatever, then
Mhm,
you might have to pay some capital gains. But if it's a second home and you sell it, you're gonna have to pay capital gains because it's an investment. So anytime you
mhm.
invest, you pay and you earn something, you pay capital gains on it.
What's the
Capital
rate?
gains being 15%.
Son of a bitch.
So for
So
this,
if
it's
you're
15%. If and a lot of people associate capital gains with the stock market. So, and that works a little bit different. Just real quick, the stock market, if you hold a stock for for a year and 1 day, and then you sell it, it's a 15% capital gains tax. If you hold it for less than a year, whatever your federal tax rate, whatever your income tax rate is, if you're in the 20%, 25% bracket or whatever,
Mhm.
you're paying that rate on what you earned on that stock. So that's why, strategy wise, that's why like when I'm looking at stocks, I'm like, hey, I've only had this, I've made a lot of money on it, but if I sell it now, I'm gonna have to pay like 25% tax on it. If I keep it for another month, that'll hit the year. I just earned another 10% because now I've only got to pay 15% on
Mm.
what I earned. So and it's but for homes, I believe, don't quote me on it. I think it's a 15%. That's usually what the capital gains is. Um
I'm holding you to
and
it.
yeah, no, hold me to it.
100%. I
If
will.
I'm wrong, then call me and tell me I'm wrong. But
I'll shoot you a text after this.
that's fine. That's fine.
Just
That's
remind you on
fine.
a regular basis. You're wrong.
Jared said, you said, yeah, when the IRS calls you, tell them Jared said, I only
While
have to pay
sipping his cup
15%.
of tea, his
Yeah,
Yoda tea.
I only have to pay 15% on my capital gains when I sold my house.
Oh my god, that's
Whatever.
hilarious.
But
Now I'm wondering if I since I've lived at the property for say at least 14 days or 10% of the total days rented, if I'm able to write off the interest, I can go ahead and say that I've resided in it. I can avoid that capital gains tax.
nope. Your
The only way
primary
to avoid this is if you do a 1031 exchange. And so if you plan on using
yes.
that money to purchase another property, avoid that
Correct.
capital gains tax by doing a 1031 exchange, which is a separate note.
Right.
Um, I guess we
And
could talk a little bit about it.
it gets so 1031s, I've done one of them and it you have to hire like an intermediary. Have you done one, Chris, for
I'm
clients?
actually about to do one. So
Okay.
they're selling their property out of state, and they're going to use that money to purchase an
Correct.
investment down here
Yeah, that's
later
exactly
this year.
what we did. So, so a client of mine selling a house out in California, and it was an investment property. It was their primary, and then it turned into an investment property. They sold it, and then they bought a bunch of stuff here in Florida. But so it's a 1031 exchange. So then they're doing this. So it's not that you don't have to pay the taxes, you're deferring
But right now,
those taxes that you still owe. You still
yep.
owe those taxes, and they will get them one day when you sell that house and you
If you sell
decide
that house,
if you ever sell it.
because
Um,
if you put that property, say like uh how with the next of kin of ownership is someone
mhm,
else, like say like your kid, and they're into like the investment side of things too, and they see like this is a business, not a home to live in.
correct.
So I'm not gonna go ahead and dilute this property and take the money. I'm gonna get hit with a several $100,000 tax bill probably. Because
Right.
if you the idea is to always level up. So if you want to start with like say one house, 1031 exchange for a duplex,
Mhm.
1031 exchange for an 8-unit apartment, 1031 exchange it for a
Right.
just a small village, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
you can build up or you can spread it out. So instead of like a multifamily, you decide to purchase 17 properties with the equivalent price range.
Right.
You can do that. So that's all business. And like it wouldn't make any sense to dilute really any of it. But I haven't been in that position, so not yet.
Yeah. So going, through that 1031, it you have to it's a big learning curve, and you have to, so the client, they have to hire what's called an intermediary, and
Mhm.
basically it's a 1031 exchange company that specializes in doing these things, because what happens is when you sell the house out here, that money doesn't go to the person that
Your
sold it.
pocket.
It
Yeah.
goes to a temporary LLC, and then that temporary LLC that the intermediary created for you in your name and whatever, they created for you. That money goes there, and then then you turn around in Florida, and then you pick out some properties, and there are time limits, or timelines that you have to meet. And
Mhm.
otherwise, you can't just say, "Oh yeah, we're buying another house," and then 3 years later, you're like, "Oh, I decided not to." No, 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 no. You
No.
have like there's
90
like a
days.
90-day period, exactly. So you turn around and you buy the house, and then you're the person buying the house is that temporary LLC, and then
Mhm.
that's where that money comes from to buy the new house. So, but you have to have one of those, and I would recommend doing one locally here where you're buying the house, because we picked one, or my client had one out in California, and it was fine, but the 3-hour time difference, especially when we were getting down to closing day and trying to get things going, it was just like, we're up, and at 8 o'clock, and the title company's like, "You guys ready to close?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can't talk to California for like another 3 hours
Yeah.
because of the time difference." So I would recommend having the 1031 exchange intermediary here, or at
To
least
or
in the
local to
same,
the property.
yeah, local to the property, or in the same time zone or something like that. But
Yeah.
it sounds really confusing and scary, but it's
It's
really
not.
not. It's just there's
It's
a
not.
lot of pieces that have
Yeah.
to be put together for it
Yep.
to work properly, and there's a
Mhm.
lot
And
of
it's
legalities and legal stuff that go
Mhm.
into it, to where, no, as the homeowner, you can't do it yourself. No, the real estate agent can't do everything themselves. You have to pay the fee to hire that
Yeah.
third party. There's
You
just too
have to, and
much.
you want to, because you don't want the IRS come knocking on your door
Correct. Correct.
for whether it be intentional or inadvertent fraud.
Right.
They will happily slap you with a fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then and then you're not just deferring your federal, like your capital gains tax, you're also deferring whatever taxes you owe to the state. So if that state has a state income tax, you're deferring that as well. So, but just
Mhm.
keep that in mind, that if you ever do sell those properties, you will have to eventually pay those taxes.
Womp,
So,
womp, womp,
yeah,
womp.
they're gonna get you some way or another.
Some way or another.
Some
So,
way or another. But so yeah, that's 1031 in a nutshell. It's not as crazy as it sounds, but there is a lot of moving pieces to it, and it
mhm.
can get confusing at
Yeah,
some points. And there's a lot of people that have to be coordinated with in order to make the deal go through.
yeah.
So
Another thing that you can, going back to the whole tax deduction thing,
yeah,
another thing that you can actually write off is the prepayment penalties. A lot of loans don't have prepayment penalties, but if you do,
true.
you can actually write that off as well and
I've
be
not
considered
seen
as a.
I, I can't think of a time where I've seen a prepayment penalty on a loan that I've done, even
Yeah.
personal loans, or ones that I've helped with, for buyers. I Do
Mhm.
they do those anymore for just standard 30-year mortgages? I mean,
Not
have you seen
not
any?
necessarily, unless it's like a private lender or like maybe like an ARM, like an adjustable rate mortgage. I don't. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. I have not seen one. I've always been looking to see if there is one out there.
yeah,
That's something that we got to ask like one of our lenders and be like, what's going on with this? What
yeah,
are the scenarios for prepayment penalty?
yeah.
So, but so we covered capital gains, interest deductions, home equity loan interest, discount points, um, home improvements, like equity loans that we can deduct and stuff like that.
Right.
What about like a home office? That's something that became very popular this year.
Yeah. So home office. So if you work from home, and I'm gonna clarify that here in just a second. But if you work from home as a contractor, I'll clarify it now. You can write off, and everybody's, most people have heard, it's like, well, I can deduct my home office. Again, it's one of those things that you have to start. Um, what is it? You have to itemize your deductions.
Mm-hmm. For the home
But
office.
for the home office,
Okay.
but where are we going with this?
Is it good for those who are like self-employed versus like W-2 employees? Because a lot of people during COVID were able to work from home. Now they have like a home office.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
hearing mixed things that you can and you can't
mhm.
write off taxes for home offices and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get out here is so during COVID, yeah, a lot of people, worked for employers that said, hey, not coming in the office, to the physical office, you guys can work from home. And then you set up a little desk in your living room, or maybe you have a home office, but you actually cannot deduct that. You can't, use that as a deduction in your taxes. So the only way you can use your home office is you have to be like basically you're self-employed. You're a 1099 contractor, you're a sole proprietor, you basically you own your own business, you're a real estate agent, for example. I don't know if you write off your home office. I
Yeah,
I
I
I
got a
definitely
whole
do.
room dedicated to it.
Um
I got a printer, I got my internet, I got
yeah,
everything under the bus, under the sun that qualifies for a home office.
yep. Yeah, so I'm not going to get into exactly how everything works. I'm gonna try to get my accountant on maybe next month, on one of the shows, either live show or pre-recorded, to go into more detail. But just know that you cannot write off your home office just because you set up a laptop on your desk, and
Mhm.
then you sit there and you do some work. You
Yeah.
have to be a 1099 contractor, sole proprietor, something like that. And then the other caveat is, if you are one of those things, you cannot use that space for anything else. If you have two businesses, it's only for one business. You could do it half
Mhm.
and half. You could split it and say this half is for, XYZ business, and then this half is for the other one. You could do that, but you can't have just one big office and then try to write everything off on both the, taxes or whatever. And then
Yeah.
you
Unless
can't
you have
use it.
2 separate rooms
Correct.
to handle it
Like,
differently.
somehow you have some sort of divider between the 2 business offices, and then you
Yeah.
can't use it for personal things. If you use it, it's like, "Well, I do mostly business," and that's not good enough. It
Yeah.
has to be 100% business. You can't be like, "Well, it's a game room during the day, and then or it's an office during the day, and then at night we use it as a game room." Sorry.
Yeah, not
IRS is
gonna
gonna
work.
say no.
Yeah.
They're gonna say no. It's gotta be only dedicated
Yeah.
for, so, like, the office
And
I'm
that's
in,
what this is.
this room, it's like 100 square feet. This room is I only come in here to work on real estate, and, as far
Yeah.
as I'm gonna say on here,
Yeah.
which
Mine
our
is mine
podcast.
is mine is almost 100 square feet. It's almost like a 9 by 10, just kinda looking at it, if not a little
Yeah.
bit bigger, actually.
Yeah. So then the way you calculate is you take the square footage of your office, and then you
Mhm.
divide that by the square footage of the entire house. So
Mhm.
let's say you have 100 square feet, and then you have a 2,000 square foot house. I can't do math. Whatever that comes
Um
out to, do the math.
It's
20.
the office is 5% of your home. On the
Right.
example, it's at 5% of your home
Oh,
expenses,
there
your
you go. I
loan
did.
payment, interest, insurance, utilities, internet, etc.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
so
you kind of wrote it
essentially,
out.
yeah. So 1,000 square foot or 2,000 square foot home, 100 square foot office. That's 5% of your home. So all your deductions for your home office is going to be 5% of that. So whatever your
Yep.
mortgage payment is, 5% of that can be deducted. Whatever your utilities are, 5% of that. So,
Mhm.
but again, if you start getting into home office stuff, have a tax guy help you out.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
It it helps. Especially, I mean, it starts getting so mucky, and just
Convoluted.
it does,
It
man.
becomes
It
clear
does.
as mud, as Jared likes to say.
Yes. And I don't care how good at TurboTax you are, man, it just starts like you start questioning every little, like, can I write that off or should I not write that off?
Yeah,
Now
because
I
there are
just
pros and cons to taxes, and when we have your tax guy on, like I got tons of questions for him. Tons of questions for him.
Sweet.
So,
well, that's all we got, man. Homestead, March 1st, March 1st, March 1st, March 1st. Get it done.
that.
Remember that.
Yep.
It's never March 30th. Never. It's always March 1st. And taxes. I love it. I love it.
Gotta have it.
So
Gotta have it. Oh, I gotta smell it. Oh,
I bet it smells. Is it delicious?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
If you smell that sweetness to it, that's for sure.
I gotta show you. I gotta send you a video. There's this one guy that when I forget what company he works for, but he does like these tastings, and then so he'll take a whiskey and he'll pour a little bit in, he'll swirl it around. He's like, and then you throw that out, and then you pour some because you're trying to get the glass coated with that whiskey, and then he puts a little bit more in there, and then he comes in there and he's like, you got to get your nose in here, and you want to get one side, and the first thing you do is you go, hello, and he says it just like that, and he's like, hello, and then he's like, and you kind of, and you got to figure out which nostril. You got to figure out which
more
nostril
open.
is more open, and some people they just, and they're like, they're gagging, they're coughing because they just got too much, and then so you do the hello, and then how are you, and then it's like getting that. It's so hilarious. I'll post it in the comments.
Please send me this.
It is.
Please send me this video.
It's so good, and
he's
he's dead serious. Like he's really good at what he does, and it's funny. But I'll send. I can't think of what it is right now.
Whiskey,
all right.
Hello.
That's all we got. Thanks for joining us today. If you want to listen to the audio only, you can check us out on Anchor.fm, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Basically, like
Anchor.
Like I said Anchor. Dang it!
Did you?
I did.
Did you say Spotify? You usually don't say Spotify.
I did not say Spotify. That one you got me. But here's the easiest thing.
Spotify.
If you just go to any one of those, like your favorite podcast, tuner or whatever you call it, app.
Chances are we're there.
Whiskey with an Agent. It'll pop up. I promise you. And if it doesn't, tell me I'm wrong. I dare you.
I'll text you right now.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Please hold. I'll text you right now.
No, that's fine. All right. More shows coming up.
Deuces, everyone. Thanks for your time.
See you guys.
Boom.